I still carry it with me, 34 years later, and I still carry Michael's letter in my wallet. The paper's yellowed now, fragile as tissue, and the ink has faded to brown. My wife found it once while doing laundry and asked me what it was. I told her it was nothing, just an old letter. She didn't ask again. But it's not nothing. It's everything. It's the weight I've carried since October 1918, since the Meuse Argonne, since the day I watched my best friend take his last breath in a shell hole while German machine guns chewed up the earth around us. It's the promise I made that I've kept for over 3 decades, even though keeping it has hollowed me out from the inside. Michael O'Brien and I grew up together in South Boston. Same street, same schools, same dreams of getting out and making something of ourselves. When the draft came in 1917, we enlisted together instead. Figured if we had to go, at least we'd go together. We were 20 years old and stupid enough to think that meant something. That friendship could protect you from what was waiting over there. Basic training at Camp Devens was a joke compared to France. They taught us to march in straight lines, to salute officers, to clean a rifle. They didn't teach us what it felt like to sleep in mud, to eat with rats crawling over your feet, to smell your own friends rotting in no man's land because nobody could retrieve the bodies. You can't teach that. You just have to survive it, if you can. We shipped out in March 1918 with the 26th Infantry Division. Michael had this habit of writing letters he never sent. He'd write to his mother, to his little sister Katie, to this girl Mary he'd been sweet on back home. Then he'd fold them up and stuff them in his pack. Said he'd send them all at once when we got back, when he had something good to say, when the war was over and we'd won. I told him he should send them anyway, tell them he was alive, that he was thinking of them. But Michael was superstitious, said if he sent them too early, it would jinx things. Better to wait until it was all over, until we were safe. He never got the chance. The Meuse-Argonne offensive started September 26, 1918. It was supposed to be the big push, the one that would end the war. Break through the German lines, cut their supply routes, force them to surrender. Command told us it would take a few days, maybe a week. It took 47 days and cost us over 26,000 American boys. Michael and I had survived 9 months in France by then. Survived Seicheprey in April, survived Château-Thierry in July. We'd learned to keep our heads down, to move fast, to not think too hard about the bodies or the screaming or the fact that every day we woke up was borrowed time. We'd become good at war, which is another way of saying we'd stopped being fully human. The night before the offensive, Michael couldn't sleep. Neither could I. We sat in our dugout, sharing a cigarette, not saying much. You run out of things to say after months of living in holes in the ground, watching boys you knew turn into red mist when shells found them. You ever think about after? Michael asked me finally. His voice was quiet, almost lost in the distant rumble of artillery. After what? After all this. After we get home. He pulled out one of his letters, held it up to the candlelight. I could see his sister's name on the envelope. Katie O'Brien, 47 Silver Street, South Boston. I'm going to mail all of these the day we get back. Going to walk right up to the post office and send every single one. Why not send them now? He shook his head. Can't. Not until it's over. Not until I know. He trailed off, but I understood. Not until he knew he'd made it. Not until he could promise his mother and his sister and Mary that the waiting was done, that he was coming home. I should have taken that letter from him right then. Should have stuffed it in my own pack and mailed it the next chance I got. But I didn't, because I believed him. I believed we'd both make it home, that we'd walk up to that post office together, that this whole nightmare would end, and we'd get to be ourselves again. The barrage started at 2:30 in the morning. 3,000 guns firing all at once, turning the night into noise and fire. We'd heard artillery before, but nothing like this. The ground shook so hard you couldn't stand. Dirt rained down from the dugout ceiling. Michael looked at me through the candlelight, and I saw fear in his eyes. Real fear, the kind we'd both been too numb to feel for months. At 5:30, the whistles blew. Time to go over. The German lines were supposed to be destroyed. The artillery was supposed to have cut the wire, collapsed the trenches, killed anyone left. That's what they told us as we fixed bayonets and climbed the ladders into the gray dawn. They were wrong. The machine guns opened up before we'd gone 20 yards. That sound, that terrible chattering rattle, it still wakes me up some nights. Michael was running beside me, and then he wasn't. I looked back and saw him on the ground, clutching his leg, blood pouring between his fingers. I should have kept going. Orders were to advance, to keep moving no matter what. But he was Michael. He was my best friend, my brother in everything but blood. So I went back. Dragging him to a shell crater probably saved both our lives in that moment, but it also meant we were stuck. The attack swept past us, disappeared into the smoke and morning fog. We were alone in no man's land with German machine guns traversing back and forth looking for targets. Michael's leg was bad. The bullet had gone through his thigh, maybe hit the artery. I tried to stop the bleeding with a bandage, but the blood kept coming. His face was white, lips blue. He was going into shock. "I'm sorry," he kept saying. "I'm sorry, Tommy. I'm slowing you down." "Shut up," I told him. "We're getting out of here. Just hold on." But we both knew. You know when someone's dying. You can see it in their eyes, in the way their body starts giving up. I'd seen it enough times by then to recognize it. The shelling started again around noon, both sides pounding the ground between the lines, turning it into a moonscape of craters and corpses. We huddled at the bottom of our hole while the earth exploded around us. Shrapnel whined overhead. Dirt and rocks rained down on us. I covered Michael with my body, trying to protect him. But what was I protecting him from? He was already dying. When the shelling stopped, I tried to make a run for our lines. Got maybe 10 feet before machine gun fire drove me back. A bullet creased my helmet, left a groove in the metal. Another hit the dirt by my boot. I threw myself back into the crater, back to Michael. He was worse. The bleeding had slowed, but only because he was running out of blood. His breathing was shallow, ragged. His hands were cold when I held them. "Tommy," he whispered, "my pack. Get my pack." I didn't understand at first. Then I remembered. The letters. "You're going to mail them yourself," I said. "When we get back. When this is over." He smiled, but it was sad, knowing. "No, I'm not. But you will. Promise me. Promise me you'll get them to Katie, to May. Tell them." He coughed and blood flecked his lips. "Tell them I thought about them every day. Tell them I wanted to come home. Michael, promise me." "I promise," I said, and the words felt like stones in my mouth. "I promise." He died just before sunset. Took his last breath while I held him, while the sound of battle echoed in the distance. His eyes stayed open, looking at nothing, and I had to close them with my fingers. Had to sit there in that shell crater with my dead best friend while the sky turned orange and purple above us. I waited until full dark before I moved. Took his letters from his pack, 7 of them, all carefully addressed in his neat handwriting. Took his dog tags, left everything else because I couldn't carry it, couldn't carry him. The hardest thing I've ever done was leaving his body in that crater, but I had no choice. The living had to keep moving. Getting back to our lines took 3 hours of crawling through mud and corpses. Every sound made me freeze, certain a German patrol would find me. Every flare that went up left me pressed flat against the ground, trying to become invisible. When I finally tumbled into our trench, the boys there almost shot me before they recognized the uniform. They asked about Michael. I told them he was dead. They nodded like I'd told them the weather. Death was so common by then it barely registered. Just another name to add to the list. Another family back home that would get a telegram. I should have mailed his letters right away. Should have found a chaplain or an officer and gotten them sent back to Boston. But I couldn't. Every time I looked at them, I saw Michael's face in that crater, heard him asking me to promise, and I couldn't let them go. Not yet. The offensive ground on. We pushed forward, yard by bloody yard. The Germans fought for every inch, and we paid for every inch in blood. I went through the motions, firing my rifle, throwing grenades, following orders. But part of me stayed in that shell crater with Michael, died with him in the fading light. I got hit 2 weeks later. Shrapnel from a shell tore up my shoulder and back. They pulled me out to a field hospital, then back to a base hospital, and finally shipped me home in December, a month after the armistice. The war was over. We'd won. Democracy was safe. Michael's letters were still in my pack, undelivered. I'd carried them through the rest of the offensive, through my wounding, through the hospitals and the transport ship home. 7 letters from a dead man to a family that didn't know yet that they'd never see him again. I went to see his mother 3 days after I got back to Boston. Took the trolley to Silver Street, walked up to number 47, stood outside for 20 minutes before I could make myself knock on the door. Mrs. O'Brien answered. She looked older than I remembered, grayer, but her face lit up when she saw me in my uniform. Tommy Sullivan. Oh, Tommy, you're home. Come in, come in. Where's Michael? Is he right behind you? That's when I had to tell her. Had to watch the hope die in her eyes. Had to see her face crumple as she understood what I was saying. Her son was dead. Her Michael, who wrote letters he never sent, who was superstitious about mailing them too early, who wanted to wait until he was safe. Katie came down the stairs while her mother was crying. She was 16 now, almost grown. She looked at me, and she knew before I said anything. Maybe she saw it in my face. Maybe she'd already felt it somehow. When? She asked. Just that one word. October 8th, I said. Meuse are gone. It was quick. He didn't suffer. Another lie. One of so many lies we tell the families because the truth, that he bled out slowly in a shell hole, that he died scared and cold and far from home, would destroy them. I gave them his dog tags. I told them he was brave, that he saved lives, that he died a hero. More lies. He died because a bullet found him, and I couldn't save him. And war doesn't care about bravery or heroism or any of the words we use to make it bearable. Then I gave them the letters. Mrs. O'Brien opened the one addressed to her with shaking hands, read it while tears ran down her face. It was full of small things, how much he missed her cooking, how he remembered Sunday dinners, how he couldn't wait to sit in the kitchen and tell her about everything. Normal things, beautiful things, things he never got to do. Katie read hers silently. She didn't cry, just folded it back up carefully and held it against her chest. He wanted to mail them all when he got home, I explained. He was going to walk right up to the post office and send everyone. But he asked me. He made me promise to bring them to you if something happened. Thank you, Mrs. O'Brien whispered. Thank you for bringing our boy home. But I hadn't brought him home. I'd brought paper and ink, words and promises. His body was still over there in a grave marked with a white cross if he was lucky, or still in that shell crater if they never found him. I'd failed him, failed the promise, kept the letters too long, carried them for selfish reasons because letting them go meant admitting he was really gone. I left Silver Street that day and I've never gone back. Couldn't bear to see their grief, to be reminded of my failure, of all the things I couldn't do. 34 years. That's how long it's been since Michael died in that shell crater. 34 years of carrying his last letter, the one addressed to Mary, the girl he was sweet on. The only one I kept. I don't know why I kept it. Maybe because I couldn't let him go completely. Maybe because it was proof that he'd existed, that he'd mattered, that he'd loved someone and wanted to tell her. Maybe because the weight of it in my wallet reminds me every day of what I lost, what we all lost. I never delivered it. Never looked up Mary to give her Michael's words. I told myself it was because I didn't know where she lived, but that's a lie. South Boston isn't that big. I could have found her if I'd tried. The truth is, I kept it because I'm selfish. Because it's the last piece of him I have. Because if I give it away, then he's really gone, and I'm really alone with what I saw, what I did, what I failed to do. The war's been over for 34 years, but I'm still in that shell crater. Still holding Michael's hand while he dies. Still making promises I can't keep. Carrying letters I can't deliver, trying to save a friend who's already gone. My wife knows something's wrong with me. How could she not? The nightmares, the drinking, the way I can't hold down a job for more than a few months, the way I flinch at loud noises, the way I can't talk about the war, the way I disappear sometimes into my own head and can't find my way back. She found me once, drunk in the kitchen at 3 a.m, holding Michael's letter and crying. She asked me who Mary was. I told her she was nobody, just a girl from a long time ago. Another lie to add to all the others. I tried to get rid of the letter once. Stood over a trash can with it in my hand, ready to let it go. Couldn't do it. Tried to burn it. Couldn't do that either. It's like a curse, this piece of paper. A reminder that I survived and he didn't. That I made it home and he's still there in the French mud. Sometimes I think about going back to France, finding that shell crater if it even still exists. Maybe if I saw it now, saw the grass growing over where he died, it would help. Maybe I could finally let him go, but I won't, because I'm a coward, because I'm afraid if I go back, I'll never leave. I'll find that crater and lie down in it and never get back up, because part of me never left it in the first place. People see the veterans marching in parades now, wearing our old uniforms, waving at the crowds. They see us as heroes, as the boys who saved the world. They don't see what's underneath. The guilt, the shame, the weight of all the promises we couldn't keep, all the letters we couldn't deliver, all the friends we couldn't save. Michael O'Brien never made it to that post office, never got to mail his letters, never got to tell his mother he loved her one more time, never got to ask Mary if she'd wait for him. He died in a hole in the ground at 20 years old, and I've spent the last 34 years carrying the weight of his unfinished life. That letter in my wallet, yellowed and fragile and fading, it's not just paper anymore. It's every choice I made, every promise I broke, every friend I left behind. It's the piece of me that died in that crater with Michael and never came home. They ask me sometimes at the VFW if I think it was worth it. The war, the sacrifice, the cost. I don't answer. How can I? How do you measure worth in bodies and broken promises, in letters never delivered and lives never lived? What I know is this. Michael O'Brien was going to mail his letters when the war was over. He was going to walk into a post office and send them all, and then he was going to come home and marry Mary and sit in his mother's kitchen and be alive. He was going to have a future. But war took that from him, took it from all of us. And now, 34 years later, I'm still carrying his words, still making excuses, still failing to keep the promise I made in a shell crater in France. I still carry it with me. This letter I can't deliver, this promise I can't keep, this weight I can't put down. And I'll carry it until the day I die, until they bury me with it, and maybe, finally, Michael and I can both rest. But I don't think we will. I don't think any of us who came back really rest. We're still there in the mud and the blood and the screaming, still watching our friends die, still making promises we can't keep, still carrying letters that will never be delivered. And that's what war does. It doesn't just kill you. It turns you into a ghost, walking through a life that doesn't quite feel real anymore, carrying the weight of everyone who didn't make it home. And you carry it, and you carry it, and you carry it until carrying it is all you know how to do. I still carry Michael's letter. I'll carry it forever. It's the least I can do, and it's the most I can do, and it's the thing that's killing me slowly, one day at a time. But I promised, and when everything else is gone, when the medals are tarnished and the uniforms are moth-eaten and the memories are fading, that promise is all I have left. So I carry it. I'll always carry it. God help me, I'll always carry it.